It's time for the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is the voice of the working class, Rick Smith. Here is Rick Smith.
So we were in Chicago for Netroots Nation, and one of the things that we talked about while we were in Chicago was the writers' strike and the SAG-AFTRA strike that's going on. Basically all of Hollywood on strike right now because the studios are stupid. But I remember talking with Patty Vasquez and saying, look, the reality is I don't know why the issue isn't being thrown out to everyone is, hey, this is the first battle in the AI war. This is the first battle in the future, and maybe since Congress isn't going to do anything, we can't get anything done in the halls of power. Maybe this is where we control some of what the future is. Maybe we don't have to be Luddites and smash the machine. Maybe we can control it, and it's workers who are doing this. And I got to tell you, I was surprised today. Got an email from the good folks over at Mother Jones saying, hey, we got this guy. He wrote something. And it's exactly what we were talking about doing. That's why I've asked Rafael Agustin to come talk with us. He's the CEO of the Latino Film Institute. He's also on the board of Mother Jones. He's written a great piece on why he's on strike. He says, I'm a striking TV writer, and here's why we're doing it. Rafael, thanks for taking time for us.
Rick, thank you so much for having me.
So, this in a very fortuitous way came into my lap and is exactly what we were just talking about the other day, that this is the front lines of that AI war. This is the front line of claiming our individual, our personality, our voice, our image, all of this stuff. And why aren't we screaming this from the mountaintop? So good on you for writing this piece. So why aren't we doing more of that?
We're not doing more because, quite frankly, as a nation, we've done a good job at destroying the union and labor movement of this country, right? In the mid-1950s, there was about 34% of all workers were part of a union. Today, it's less than 10%. And everything that you're discussing is exactly right. Tech companies, with their idea of disruption, keep entering industries and turning all workers into the gig economy. Like the idea of Airbnb, of Spotify, of Uber, it came at a great cost for the labor of like the hotel industry, the music industry, the taxi driving industry. But tech companies faced something in Hollywood that they never expected. And that is a very strong union town. That's why we're standing up. That's why we're fighting back. And it's easy to think, oh, a bunch of rich writers and a bunch of rich actors are just like whining and complaining, but it's not.
No.
That's why I wanted to write this piece, because I wanted to frame it in the way that it should be framed. And that's that this is truly the labor fight of our generation. It boils down, in my eyes, it boils down to tech versus humanity. Right.
No, and the reality is you're right. And because, people think Hollywood, they think the big stars. And the reality is the vast majority of people who work in film or TV or writers, these are people who are just barely getting by and maybe having to work second, third, fourth jobs to follow their passion. So when I heard that extras would be going to a set and having their image basically cloned in perpetuity, I'm going, well, that can't happen. You have to strike when that's being thrown on the table. But I haven't heard anyone else tell me that than what Patty shared with me.
The sad thing is that extras who are non-union have already signed away their likeness without even knowing it, because they didn't know what they were signing. And these AI companies have taken their likeness in perpetuity. But that's why you need a strong union behind you to fight whatever's happening clandestinely.
Now, how I've had a couple of people ask me how long I think this is going to last. And my answer is always, hopefully one day longer than the executives want it to go, because I want the workers to win in this. Ultimately, you've got to be there as long as you have to be, because this is really your existence, isn't it? I mean, if if you're not being paid for the work that you're doing, if your likeness is being stolen, if your creativity is being stolen, because I look at the streaming stuff, you're not being paid for. Why would anybody want this job? And to me, if you can't make a living at this, maybe it's time to shut it down where we are right now.
And essentially, that's why the leadership of our guild decided to fight back, because the rich folks, they're not affected by this. The showrunners, the writer producers, they're fine. What they're truly fighting for is the preservation of writing as a career. It's going to be decimated. We are not doing any mentorship. We're not properly compensating the next generation of writers. And this AI fight, this fight with artificial intelligence, is very scary. In fact, when our guild leadership went in to talk to the studios, they didn't even think it was a problem. They're like, okay, we can all agree that scripts are written by human beings, right? And the negotiators on the other side were like, well, we don't want to take away the right for the studios to use AI to generate scripts. And we were like, oh, hell no. Now we're striking because we know what you're doing. Last time they said, oh, we don't want to talk about internet right now because who knows what it'll do. And then streaming became a thing. So they're already thinking into the future. And in their future, right, the number one rule of economics, how do you make a profit? You exploit labor. And in their future, not only do they exploit labor, they evaporate and decimate labor. Because in their perfect worlds, a season of television is no longer written by 10 to 14 writers. It is written by one writer and one AI machine. That's what the future that they want. And that's the future that we have to put an end to.
And they get to keep all the profits. And this is one of those moments where, I've been talking about this study that was done about 5 years ago that said, in 20 years, half of the jobs that we do currently will all be replaced by robotics and AI. This is the front line of that. Now, look, there are other jobs that have been replaced already, but this is a mass scale. This is an industry that's been taking hits for years. But this is the end of you guys. I see nothing left on the other side, especially when you're talking about the streaming stuff. Because again, how writers, as I understand, and you help me if I'm wrong here, but as they're paid by repeats, by things being put re-aired and paid for, and residuals that come over the years.
You're talking about residual checks, which, by the way, the Writers Guild of America fought for and won back in 1953. These are fights we already had 70 years ago. The thing that changed is that tech companies have come into town and try to rewrite the laws, the rules, the history of it all. Because let me just, so your audience could understand, residual checks and broadcasting and like the networks that we see for free on TV, right? Because they're supported by advertising. And broadcasting, when my episode of television reruns, I get a check for that. And these residual checks, not only did we earn, they keep us afloat in between jobs or when we're trying to develop a new show. It's how we provide for our families. So a perfect example is a writer shared recently. He used to write a procedural show for broadcast, and his residual checks were close to $22,000 every time one of his episodes re-aired. $22,000. He went to write for a streamer, right? The Netflix, the Amazons, the Apple, Hulu of the world. His residual checks now for that same show is now $120.
Wow.
From $22,000 to $120. That is what is happening in Hollywood, and that's what the tech companies are trying to get away with.
So ultimately, what you're talking about is a massive redistribution of wealth
away
from working people to these executives and the shareholders.
Correct.
And that's what this fight is about. Because I've had people email me and say, well, you greedy union members always going on strike, because there is it's hot, strike summer. It's hot labor summer. And we are seeing people who have had enough coming out of the pandemic, taking on that title of hero and essential and all that, and now demanding to be treated as such. But you're just trying to fight for your existence.
But Rick, you're bringing up the most perfect point in the world. The studios can 100% afford to give us what we're asking for. What they cannot afford is to show the world that strikes work. That is what they're really afraid of.
No, and that's all companies. I'm looking at what's going on at UPS and the potential of a strike there, and I hope that doesn't get ugly. But you're spot on. You're listening to the Rick Smith Show here with Raphael Augustine. He's the CEO of the Latino Film Institute, also a board member at Mother Jones. He's got a piece at Mother Jones I hope you'll take a look at. I'm a striking TV writer, and here's why we're doing this. Now, again, are we Luddites? Are we saying that technology should be destroyed? Because I had some people saying, hey, is it that we don't want to use technology? What's the gist? You're not against technology. You're just saying I'd prefer it not replace me, and I would prefer it not put my face on.
Correct. And in the case of the writers, it was very simple. We wanted to come to terms that all scripts are generated by human beings. And writers can use AI as research or as support, but what you can't do is generate scripts directly from AI. For many reasons outside of preserving the profession of writing, we have to get legislation in here. We have to get copyright violation clause in here. I mean, if you tell an AI machine, give me a Quentin Tarantino script, it will spit out a Quentin Tarantino script. But how does it know what a Quentin Tarantino script is? It was fed so many already. So when we're talking about AI in Hollywood, we're really talking about plagiarism machines.
No, and that's where I think Sarah Silverman is now engaged in a lawsuit on this very thing, that nothing AI does is original, and it's all copywritten, and it's basically just theft. Is that the way forward? Because I know you said there needs to be some legislation, and I wish we were a functional country that could do some of that. But I just don't see that we're I don't see we're capable of doing something that is that big, given our political climate. Or do you disagree?
I have hope. I truly have hope, and more importantly, I'm hoping that Hollywood and California can lead on this. There are a few legislators, state and federal, who are currently meeting on this, and we hope to set the standard of how to push back and how to fight for this. Unfortunately, everyone is so confused by it. They don't even know what to do. I mean, look at our legislators in Washington. They can barely get through a hearing on Facebook, for crying out loud.
Yeah. But I got to tell you, I loved one of the passages you wrote about, not being the typical union striker. And you wrote, we're not rugged, we're neurotic. Our carpal tunnel doesn't come from lifting heavy things, but from typing too much. But like every other union member in this country, we are over caffeinated, and we know our worth, and we refuse to be exploited. That to me is really an important line that I think every working person in this country, regardless if you're currently in a union or not, should be taking to heart. The fact that your labor is worth something, the hours of your life are worth something, and you should be demanding better.
And the reason why I wanted to point that out is because being on the picket lines, what I've seen most is the support that we get from other union members. It never comes from like the expensive Teslas that drive by. It comes from the big rigs. It comes from the bus drivers. It comes from the electrical vehicles. It comes from the county utility vehicles. It comes from other union members in Los Angeles. And that's the beauty.
No, and this is where I've been saying, Raphael, for a very long time. And I every time there's a strike, anyone who's listening in a strike area, go adopt a striker, spend the day and walk with them, bring them a coffee, a soda, a dozen donuts, a pizza, something, but spend time with that striker, hear their stories, and get more bodies on the line. Because as I've always said, the bigger the strike, the bigger the picket line, the shorter the strike. So we need people to get out there. But this is one of those moments where, I keep saying that the working class can unite. The way we reunite this country is to reunionize and get people out on those picket lines fighting for something. Because look, I knew some old Teamsters back. They fought the battles of the 50s and 60s, and the old timers would tell the stories of how they went out on strike every couple of years just to get people to feel the sense that they fought and won something. Because if you fought for something and you won something, you're never going to give it up. So I see this as a bunch of writers and a bunch of people who, you're right, they're not lifting boxes. Them standing strong 12 weeks into this, them fighting for better, we can all do it.
Well, we could all do it, but you also bring up an important point that the middle class of this country and the better working conditions that we have all were built on the backs of strong unions and strong union fights and strikes. Again, I pointed out at the top that we went from having 34% of our labor belonging to a union in the 50s to only 10%. That's what's so heartbreaking. I agree with you. We have to unionize more. The working class, the labor force only makes a stronger America, a stronger economy, and a stronger nation.
So lastly, last question I've got for you, because I want to make sure people understand the gist of what's going on. We talked about the AI. We talked about keeping your face and your copyright and your intellect. Also about the residuals and the pay structure. Is there more to this that we need to know? Is there more that we need to get behind?
Data. Unfortunately, these tech companies hide behind data, and the problem is, are we overpaid for shows that are not being seen on streamers, or are we underpaid for big hits? Spoiler alert, it's the latter, right?
Yeah.
So we're trying to get compensated for the success of our work as well. If it's a flop, we understand why we won't get paid that much. But if it's a gigantic hit, like Squid Game, you saw the hundreds of millions of dollars they made, and that creator made nothing from that. At least not from season 1. He's probably fighting for a much bigger season 2 contract. But that's the point. Like, we need to see data. We need to be honest about the data. Broadcast television for decades always show their data. The streamers and tech companies go, oh, we don't share our data. But guess what? Netflix is now going to provide an ad-supported service, which means that Netflix realized, oh, we need advertising to make money. Oh, we might look at this old model of doing television, but then you can't tell the labor force, oh, we can't show you our data.
Yeah.
But you are going to show your data to advertisers? I'm sorry, you can't have it both ways.
Yeah, this is a reason to walk out of Netflix. This is a reason to strike and to carry on. But Rafael, I appreciate the time. I want you to come back and keep us up to date on what's going on as this continues. I'm hoping it's short, but I fear this is going to be a long one.
One day longer, one day stronger, my brother.
There you go. I appreciate the time, Rafael Agustin. He's the CEO of the Latino Film Institute, also a board member over at Mother Jones. Make sure you check out his article. I am a striking TV writer, and here's why we're doing this. We'll get links out on social media. You can take a quick look at it. Can take a quick break. Right back with your thoughts. Stick around. Listen to the Rick Smith Show. We're working people. We're talking.
MTG, Maga's MVP. MTG, Maga's MVP. Democrats get back. Boom. Reporters even get slapped.
Vladimir over here. Oh, I mean,
With the decision, when it came to the decision with
If you and Trump got in the ring, he loves his UFC and stuff like that, right? If you got in the octagon, you and him, who'd win?
Come on. Guy's 78 years old. I'd kick his ass.
We need to pop him good and hang a felony on him is what we need to do.
it has nothing to do with whether or not colored people or black people or anybody can serve.
If you were in the Trump White House, it was very likely that the media would report if you sneezed.
You could suggest that your people take less interest, for example, in other people's bodies and talk about that.
Oh, wait, we're trying to keep...
He's mocked your weight, Trump.
Yeah, look at him. Arnold Schwarzenegger.
I love you.
Wait. I
knew this was a bad idea.
Seek solutions.
There has been a moral decay in our country because too many of our leaders have traded the truth for a lie.
That's not what I'm talking about. I'm saying there's nothing wrong with asking for election fraud.
We don't want Disneyland to train our military.
Margot Robbie is not mid. A 10 is a 10.
Yeah, it's absolute bullshit. Yeah, that's my reaction.
You're the devil on my shoulder.
Over our dead bodies, will you do anything to Matt Gaetz?
Stop calling Tommy Tuberville a racist simply because he talked about having white skin and being a nationalist.
And we let your vengeance be yours, because if it was mine, I'd shoot people.
No, luckily I don't snort cocaine, like it's not my thing.
I got indicted. I said, I can't believe it. I got indicted.
From the steel mills of Pennsylvania, to the auto factories of Michigan, to the modern makers movement, manufacturing makes our nation great. I'm Scott Paul, president of the Alliance for American Manufacturing. We bring business and labor together to advocate for policies that everyone can agree on. Together, we can strengthen manufacturing and create good-paying American jobs. Help us keep it made in America.
We are AFGE, the American Federation of Government Employees. We represent 700,000 federal and D.C. government workers who are the vital threads of the fabric of American life. We support our nation's military. We take care of our nation's veterans. We protect our nation's borders. We respond to our nation's crises and natural disasters. We provide services to our nation's seniors. The American Federation of Government Employees. We work for America.
The old factory towns in America's heartland have been taking a beating. Thing is, though, there's a light at the end of the tunnel. The new CHIPS bill that got passed will bring jobs back home and has already resulted in big announcements of major new factories opening. The American Recovery Package has allowed cities and counties to hire new police officers and firefighters and start rebuilding their communities again. We're finally turning things around after 40 years of screwing over working people. But will we keep moving in the right direction? That's our choice.
It doesn't matter what kind of weather. It doesn't matter what time of day or night. When Mother Nature's done her worst, the only thing that matters to us is keeping the lights on for you. The hardworking women and men of the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, dedicated to keeping the power on in communities all across the country. Because when bad weather strikes, we know what matters most. IBEW, the power professionals.
Back to the Rick Smith Show. Check out the website, thericksmithshow.com. So I got to finish up with this. The Texas governor, Greg Abbott, doing some pretty sleazy, pretty ugly, pretty horrible stuff. Maybe you've seen the stories of what they're doing down on the Rio Grande, but evidently Abbott and his goons. I got to tell you, it's almost like Nazi stuff. It's the cruelty is the point kind of stuff. The New York Times had a long story on the tactics that Texas is using on migrants, trying to come into the country. Now, look, I don't know the answer to our immigration problems. I don't have all the answers. I have some ideas, some things that we could be doing, should be doing. But the one thing that I do know that we don't deal with it by drowning children. I'm pretty sure that's not the pro-life position, or is it? Now remember, you got Abbott, pro-life guy, putting nets in the water so that people get tangled up, doing all kinds of things to cause injuries, and the one story where evidently there's like a barbed wire fence that goes across. People threw some stuff over it to try and get over it. The border patrol people or whoever, I think the Texas soldier, whoever they were, are ripping this stuff away so people are getting injured. And go back to Texas, or go back to Mexico, and you go again. Don't know the answer entirely. Congress should probably do its job. But this kind of cruelty, and I know, here's the thing, I know, the cruelty is the point. The more cruel that you can be to people, I guess as the mindset goes, the Stephen Millers of the world would have you, if there's a boat coming over, sink it. Because if you remember during the Trump years, they actually wanted to use drones to sink boats coming from other places. If you got migrants coming here, sink the boat, make them swim. Maybe they can fight with the sharks. I don't know that that's the right answer. I have said that, and I go back to 2010 and 11 with the Tea Party, who were all tingly in the panties over foreign aid. I was saying that the way that you keep people in their countries, a lot of foreign aid, make it more desirable to stay home. Because I can't imagine people want to walk 1,000 miles. I can't imagine people want to swim across the Sludge River. I can't imagine that they want to get the possibility of being killed or mutilated or maimed. Can't imagine they want that. But the prospect of there being something better at the end of the horrible journey, because it's so desperate at home, may be something we should possibly think about. Now, I have my conservative friends who say, well, it's not our job to be, the person who makes all the rest of the world better. Yeah, kind of is. We've kind of put ourselves in that position. We've kind of done that. And if you're not solving some of the problems with your neighbors, if you're not a good neighbor, you're going to have problems. And this is one of those things where, man, the cruelty being the point, I got to think in 20, 30, 50, 100 years, there's going to be people who are around reading the stories of what Abbott and what conservatives are doing. The kind of cruelty, the kind of mean-spiritedness that is coming from the right because they can. I got to wonder what future generations are going to think and what they're going to think of those of us who stayed silent. This is disgraceful. Look, I don't, as I said, don't know all the answers to our immigration troubles, but I'm pretty sure this is the wrong way. I'm pretty sure children drowning, not in the best interest of our policy. I want to hear your thoughts, though. What do you think? Should we be drowning kids? Should we be shooting down boats? Should we sinking ships as people are trying to sail here? Because after all, you got to wonder where your ancestors came from. Did they come on a boat that we could have shot down? I know. I'm here now. Pull up the ladder. Step on the fingers of the person behind you. Yeah. Anyway, I want to hear your thoughts. Email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. If you miss any portion of the program, make sure you grab the podcast. Thanks so much for being here. We'll see you back here next time.
You've been listening to The Rick Smith Show. Email Rick at rick@thericksmithshow.com. Until next time, this has been The Rick Smith Show, where working people come